The Holy Gospel according to John, the 18th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Pilate entered the headquarters again, summoned Jesus, and asked him, "Are you the king of the Jews?" Jesus answered, "Do you ask this on your own, or did others tell you about me?" Pilate replied, "I am not a Jew, am I? Your own nation and the chief priests have handed you over to me. What have you done?" Jesus answered, "My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were from this world, my followers would be fighting to keep me from being handed over to the Jews. But as it is, my kingdom is not from here." Pilate asked him, "So are you a king?" Jesus answered, "You say that I am a king. For this I was born, and for this I came into the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
I'm a little winded. We have a dilemma on our hands. Okay, maybe it's me with a dilemma, but I think you figured out that if I have a dilemma, you're going to hear about it. Okay? The first dilemma is that the creators of this lectionary that we follow in our worship, the creators of these who picked the text, did not include the next verse in today's gospel reading. Sure, I could have added it to the end of the reading in the bulletin or on the screen and not bothered with telling you all of this, but to be honest, I forgot. So at the end of the gospel reading that we just heard, we hear Jesus answering Pilate and saying, "You say I'm a king, for this I was born, for this I came to the world, to testify to the truth. Everyone who belongs to the truth listens to my voice." That's where we just ended. But the very next verse, verse 38, says, Pilate asked Jesus, "What is truth?" What is truth? How could you leave that out? What is truth? Doesn't that seem like one of the most important questions we wrestle with today? As we sort through all of the stuff that's going on around us, we have to ask ourselves that same question. What is truth? And who is the judge of what the truth actually is, or which truth is the right truth? And what truth do we hold as followers of Jesus Christ that can speak words of hope and joy and peace and love to the world? So really, I think that's our other dilemma today. What is our truth? We heard Jesus say, "For this I came into the world, to testify to the truth." So what is it? I mean, in one sense, it's a ridiculously simple question and simple answer, right? What is truth? Love God, love one another. I mean, that's what we've been talking about here these past few months. It seems like that's what Jesus tries to get across to us, like his whole ministry. Love God, love others. Where's the dilemma? The dilemma is that so many of Jesus' truths bring about this great deal of tension for us, which means that we have the job of sorting out so many of these paradoxes. And because we do that, it sometimes becomes so difficult and confusing to the point that we might give up. There are things I certainly struggle with, and if it's all right with you, I thought we'd struggle with them together today. So for one thing, like I said, we end the church year today lifting up Christ as King, or the reign of Christ. We give thanks that Jesus comes as no earthly king or no earthly ruler that we've ever known before. He's a sovereign king who we say reigns over all, and yet he's someone who has become servant of all. So how do we even begin to understand that someone who can have total and ultimate authority over all of creation is that same someone who gets down on his knees to wash another's feet, or the someone who touches the leper and the outcast, or that someone who allows himself to be accused, arrested, and executed. So when we speak of that execution, we think of another tension is about how does death bring about life? Why is the cross, which was one of the most public and painful and gruesome means of killing someone, now a symbol of victory and life? When we strive for victories in nearly every other thing that we do, it means for us to come out on top or defeat someone else or something else. But as disciples of Jesus, our victory comes when we lay down our lives and give away our wealth and deny any sort of privilege we might have. I mean, so does the cross symbolize suffering and death or victory and life? Part of Jesus' conversation with Pilate this morning revolved around the kingdom. As I said, we hear Jesus declare that my kingdom is not from this world. Well, I think we can all certainly claim that this world in no way reflects the kingdom from which Jesus came or to which he returned. I mean, this kingdom of fear and hatred and violence is not what God intended and not what God's kingdom looks like. Yet, part of God's kingdom is here. Now, in church jargon, we would say it's already but not yet. God's kingdom is already but not yet. Which is a pretty wordy way to say that on one hand, God's kingdom has in fact arrived here among us in this world through Jesus. When Jesus came into the world as God in the flesh, the kingdom arrived. When we love God and love others, or when we witness to the love and light of Christ, we are God's kingdom in this place. And yet, on the other hand, the kingdom is still not yet. It's not totally here. I mean, we confess week after week that Jesus will surely return and usher in the fullness and completeness of that kingdom. Because really, as much as we try to be kingdom people here in this place, God's kingdom that we talk about still seems like this utopia that has not been achieved and honestly doesn't feel like it can ever be achieved with the way things feel around us. So then also in our lives of discipleship and in our understanding of God's word, we struggle with a tension between law and gospel. We question whether the God we know today, the God of the New Testament, we might say, was that same God we read about in the Old Testament. How is it that this God who seems so judgmental and wrathful and law-driven is now full of forgiveness and love and grace? Do we live under the law or do we live under the gospel? Are we sinners or are we saints, as Martin Luther said? This past Lent, I preached a lot about God's covenant, and apparently I came across as being a little too lax about some of the things, because when we talk about the 10 Commandments, I tried to get us to think about God's 10 covenants with us. And I did that because I struggle. I struggle with God giving us both laws and gospel. I mean, in one sense, the 10 Commandments are laws. Well, in all senses, they are laws. They were given to Moses, they're given to the Israelites, they're given to us, so that we all know how to live and not stray from God's word. But when Jesus arrives, and we hear that the way to God, the way through the Father, is through the Son, it's through Jesus. We hear in Ephesians, for grace you have been saved through faith, which is not of your own doing. It's the gift of God, not the results of works. So, we don't have to follow the laws because that would be our own doing? Or can we see those laws and live into them through this gospel-centered lens? I mean, can we be sinners who simply don't live up to God's laws and yet, in the same breath, be saints? Loved children of God who are saved by grace? I mean, do you see the dilemma we're talking about here? I feel like you do get this because I see the struggles that we all share in trying to live this life of faith. If we had it all figured out, this church would either be empty because we wouldn't need to come together and wrestle together, or we'd be overflowing to the streets because everyone would want to know the secret answer that we have found. Because what is truth? Is it a king who reigns or a king who serves? Is it victory through winning or victory through dying? Is it a kingdom that is here now or a kingdom that will come soon? Is it living under God's laws or living in God's amazing grace? Is it being judged or forgiven? Is it being sinners or saints? Which is it? What is truth? The conclusion that I've come to so far is this. I think it's all of it. I mean, when we're faced with these dilemmas, when we're faced with these tensions, we have convinced ourselves that we can only pick one side or the other. It has to be A or B, black or white, yes or no, win or lose. But what we see over and over in Scripture, and what Jesus has shown us through his life, death, and resurrection, is that we frequently, if not always, have to live in the midst of this tension. And what's the biggest surprise that we find? What do we find in these tensions? Well, we find that God is right there in them with us. The truth is that God came to this world to know our pain and challenges and joys and walk with us through it all. And the truth is that Jesus reigns in this way that we may not fully understand or grasp, but he reigns and rules in a way that surely can defeat all evil and bring us all hope. And I can live with that. Amen.